Right, how are we all doing? So, this is take 497, and this is about PDRA 01. So, this is what we used to have. This is the old PFCO, CA permission, whatever you want to call it. I did this, I ripped it up so many times now I've stopped wasting paper. I'm only doing it pretend. That's it, it's done. And what we now get is something called the PDRA 01, or the CA operational authorisation, in a specific category, which is basically the same as the PFCO, almost, apart from a few subtle differences. So, this is now what it looks like, and what it does, it has your details on the front page. So it has the authority releasing authorisation, and that's the United Kingdom. The issuing authority, United Kingdom Civil Aviation Authority. The authorising signatory point of contact, and it's the CAA's telephone number and UAV inquiries email. You're then into the operator information, so my information, so that's my operator ID, my CAA reference, so I have a CAA reference number, my operator name, trading as blah blah blah, my point of contact, blah blah blah, my authorisation number. So this is how many times the CA has given me a permission of some kind, and this is number 9. It states my operations manual 3.9 and dates it. Now that's interesting because you don't technically have to tell the CA about every little update you do. So the next version they get could be 4.2. Okay, next. So part 3, so that's part 1 is the state, part 2 is the operator information. Now part 3, this is where we get into the good stuff. UAS information, so this is what you can fly. So it says 3.1 manufacturer, not applicable. I'm not limited. 3.2 is model, so that will be aircraft model. It should say aircraft type in my opinion, but it just says model. Basically any fixed wing and or rotary unmanned aircraft with a maximum takeoff mass less than 25 kilos. Dead simple. Dead simple. I can fly anything I want up to 25 kilos. Piece of tosh. Now, we're getting to the good stuff in a minute. Serial numbers, so you have to have the operator ID displayed on the unmanned aircraft, blah 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 blah, flown under this operational authorisation. Interestingly, even for my hobby flying, I only have one operator ID. Because it's my name trading as, even my model planes, because I'm too tight to pay £9, and why should I pay something twice to fly my model aircraft or my drone? Makes no chucking sense. So they're under the same one. I only have one operator ID, and it is stuck on my aircraft as required. Now, relevant and other comments in 3.4. So A, so it's got 3 notes. It's got A, the unmanned aircraft must be equipped with a mechanism that will cause it to land in the event of disruption to or failure of any of its control systems, including the C2 link. The C2 link basically is the command link. Okay. Now B is the interesting one. So B, the remote pilot must ensure that this mechanism is in working order before any flight is commenced. Anyone that's got a PDRA, go and read part B. I've got an answer to that because I'm asked a CA. And then part C to 3.4 is the UAS operator must ensure that the radio spectrum used for the C2 link and any or payload communication complies with the relevant Ofcom requirements, and that any licenses required for its operation have been obtained. Now, we're just going to drop back to part B, because technically you would... What's interesting is the remote pilot must ensure that the mechanism is in working order before any flight is commenced. Well, you can't, because you can't take off to check it. All I can do, and all of us can ever do, is make sure that the RTH home button is ticked. So what I did is I emailed the CAA and says, hang on a minute, this means no one can ever take off. It means you can never fly because you don't know if it's going to work before you get in the air. So, prosecution over or interpretation of S 3.4, the operation authorisation. This is from the CAA. I got this from their UAS sector lead, okay? So, in the event of a horrible, negligent accident, the RP or UAS operator would only find themselves prosecuted in terms of aviation legislation for breaches of Articles 240 or 241 or 265 and its ilk. Article 265 is a legal construct that demands people flying UAS adhere to implementing UK regulations 2019-947 as in Cap 1789A. The criminal offence under Article 265 would involve, for example, breach of Article 265A 6-D-B, which is flying without obeying UAS specific 50.1. So UAS specific 50, I'm just going to tell you what that's about, because someone's going to go, what's that? So that's responsibilities of the UAS operator. So if the operator has not done certain things, okay, which in turn says you've got to carry out each operation with the limitations and conditions and mitigation measures specified in the operational authorisation. Art 265B has a similar provisionals for the remote pilot. So as long as you are flying to your ops manual and UAS specific responsibilities, and you've done them as an operator and a remote pilot, so UAS spec 50 requirements is the UAS operator and UAS spec 60 is responsibilities of the remote pilot. As long as you're both doing those things, that's fine. And that's the kind of stuff that's like the pre-flight. You're checking the weather conditions, you're doing everything you should do, all your pre-flight stuff, your airspace checks, all that jazz, your aircraft maintenance. If you've done all that, technically they're going to have a problem. Now, the CAA's expectations is that in order to prosecute someone under Article 265, would either be prosecuting authority themselves, so if someone was going to be done under Article 265, they would be the prosecuting authority, or would be expected to act as prosecution witness. While a judge may have decided if UAS Spec 51F was really broken, it wouldn't get to that stage without the CA's involvement. Even if it did, the interpretation of in working order, so if your aircraft, when it takes off, is in working order as per what I've been told from the CAA, right, it will give a lot of leeway. You can't be expected to know that a DJI system was going to fail in that sense. So as far as you were concerned, it was working order when you took the aircraft off. The lower end of the specific category in that sense is designed to allow operations that are safe enough, because we're not expecting full airworthiness procedures. Now, that is brilliant, because there was an incident, and there's an AIB investigation, Phantom 4, RTK fell out the sky, there was someone 10 metres away, but it fell out the sky. The operator and remote pilot had done everything they had. Even if they had hit that poor person, an absolute worst case had happened, under this Article 265, in working order, when it took off and a prop coming off, they could not be prosecuted for negligence in any way, shape or form, because that aircraft would have been flying, it had flown all day, it had already done a 30-minute mission or so, 20-minute mission, they'd moved location, they put it back together again, put the props on, it did a flight, its second flight I think it was, the prop came off. Because it was in working order, there's no way that that remote pilot could have been prosecuted should the aircraft have fallen out of the sky and killed someone, worst case. Well, that is brilliant. I will actually put this text from the CAA in this description of this video, because I was very much concerned about the remote pilot must ensure that this mechanism is in working order before any flight is commenced. And it just goes to show the CAA are not a complete bunch of arses, basically. They can see the logic, and you know, the AIAB have said, oh, drones should not overfly people. A 1.4 kilo drone, yes, a Phantom 4 Pro, it falls out of the sky and hits someone, it's going to hurt. If it hits them in the wrong spot, it could potentially kill someone. However, to date, in the UK, no drone that I'm ever aware of has fallen out of the sky and killed anyone. Now, when it does, it'll be very sad and it's going to be very tragic, and there's going to be a lot of hoo-ha and a big stink about it. However, if it becomes about things overflying, then surely the AAIB would like complete ban on helicopters overflying towns and cities. You know, they will have a complete ban on aircraft overflying urban areas as they come into land. They would be, you know, it's very interesting that as soon as there's a little bit of a crumb that something terrible might happen, the people that work at the AAIB, don't take this the wrong way guys, but you would never get in a car and you would never drive anywhere, because the way you viewed the drone flying and falling out of the sky, the fact that if someone's driving on a road and they had a blowout and they swerved into you and could hit you and kill your car, or hit you in your car, or you could have a crash, those odds are so much higher than a drone falling out of the sky than hitting someone. You know, death by your odds, I think it's 1 in 7 million from aviation. And at the minute we've had CAP 722 since 2020, which means, if you like, commercial ops was really kind of acknowledged in 2020, although it was acknowledged before that, but you had to have BMFA helicopter B and you had to be able to fly, unlike everyone today who just twiddles sticks and twangs them about and can't fly. There's a rant in there somewhere, I don't know where it is, but it's there. But basically, you know, we've had 20 odd years now, plus no one has been killed by a drone falling out of the sky in the UK. And if anyone knows anywhere else in the world where that's happened, please let me know, because I don't think it's happened with a drone falling out of the sky. I am talking multi-rotor, by the way. I'm not talking about anything else. So, next we're into part 4. This is limitations and conditions for the drone operation. Type of operation, VLOS only. However, B, but remote pilots may be assisted by a single unmanned aircraft observer. The reason why they say unmanned aircraft observer is because this person that stood with you, they must be stood with you, not 5 metres, not 10 metres, not 20 metres away, not 100 metres away. They must be stood with the remote pilot, okay? They are the ones that are going to watch the aircraft. While the pilot is looking at his screen and flying, you can have someone stood next to you. You should have basic procedures on how they should warn you and interact. But basically, you can fly what we call FPV, as long as you have a spotter for commercial flight stood just there, okay? And they observe the aircraft, and that is to avoid hitting aircraft, persons, vehicles, vessels, and structures, okay? 4.2 operating time periods. I can fly day or night. I've got no limitations. Locations of operation. I can fly anywhere in the UK subject to airspace restrictions. Basically, I need permission to fly an FRZ, prohibited airspace, restricted airspace, get permission. It's that simple. Well, next we're into airspace, and that's talking about flight restriction zones. You should all know this if you've got a GVC or a PFCO. Operation heights and altitudes, dead simple. We all know it's 120 metres, 400 feet from the closest point of the surface of the Earth. Any obstacle taller than 105 metres may be overflown by a maximum of 15 metres, provided the person in charge of the obstacle has requested this, and the unmanned aircraft must not be flying more than 50 metres horizontal from the obstruction. I find this kind of a little bit bonkers in my head. So, for example, you can have a massive telecom tower that's 1,000 feet. You can be 50 metres from it, and you go 15 metres above it. Why only 15 metres above it? Why can't you go 50 metres? Because, to be honest, if there's manned aviation at 50 metres above such things like big telecom towers, they've already got bigger issues than I'll ever have been there, especially if a wind farm as well. Can you imagine a wind farm? An aircraft being near a wind farm, that'd be hilarious. That's a bit close. Oh look, there's a wind turbine gone out. Oh, why is that a plane sitting? Anyway, maximum operating range, 500 metres. We're still limited by this 500 metres in the operational authorisation, the GVC. Fixed wing operators, this is the bind of your life. VTOL operators, this is the worst thing. We're still limited by this 500 metres. And there are people going to watch this video and go, but it's about see and avoid and detect and avoid. Well, it is, yes. But if you've seen the Believer videos, you've seen how big they are. You look at an EB, you watch an EB fly. You can see an EB out to 750 metres, 800 metres. It really is ridiculous. No, it's not ridiculous, sorry, that's the wrong word. Slightly crazy. We're still stuck on this primitive 500 metre thing. It should be visual line of sight, and if you are going to cap it, it should be a kilometre, because fixed wings, you know, a kilometre for them is nothing, and they are more than visible. Anyway, there's a rant in there again somewhere. Next, 4.7, separation from uninvolved piercing. So 50 metres and 30 metres, unlike what a lot of REs used to teach. Okay, so people could be walking along. Right, now it's a 50 metre bubble around them, although it was better to teach a bubble around the aircraft because people can picture the aircraft in the air, 50 metres. So if you're flying at 55 metres, you're clear of the little person that walks underneath, that's fine, and not really a problem. However, make sure you've got a risk assessment for it. A bit like that Phantom 4 Pro that fell out of the sky because its prop came off. You know, so yeah, 30 and 50 metres, you can overfly with a GVC. Like I said, years, you know, and you could with the PFCO. For years I was told you couldn't fly across a busy road. I was told you couldn't fly in a housing estate. I was told this and the other. And I taught it, and I taught people you could. Just got to risk assess it. Those RAEs, by the way, all now teach overflight, because it's the only thing that beats. The GVC is the one thing where you can fly heavier machines and you can do overflight. It's the win. You know, it works. So next, security and loading of equipment. Basically, if you're going to attach something to the aircraft, make sure it's secure. Okay. Now, we have pilot requirements. That's the GVC course currently. You can have the NQE full recommendation until a certain date, of course. CAP 722 has that. Blah, blah, blah. If we don't know all those things yet, we're in trouble. And yeah. Next is 4.11, reporting occurrences, the CAAs. The CAAs 2. CAAs 2, by the way. CAAs 2. You have 72 hours into which to report your incident. Insurance, EC 785 2004. We all know that as well. Well, I've got a feeling I've missed something. There is one thing. It's about access. We'll get to that then. And then finally, we have, as we always used to have, we've got the dates, how long it's valid to and from, so I'm good until the 11th of 6th, 2022. Talks about flight restriction zones. We've got the old stamp from the CAA, we've got our flight restriction zones, GDPR they bang on about, and then finally private land and trespass, so we should not unwittingly commit trespass when conducting a flight if you're a commercial operator. Now, there is something called Spec 90 in the Operational Authorisation, GVC. Now, Spec 90, there are authorised persons listed in the ANO. So basically, Spec 90 is about access. It basically means that if someone comes and asks, you have to show certain things. However, this is the important bit. So Spec 90, there are authorised persons listed in the ANO, which includes police officers. Any constable is the definition. But as they are authorised by the virtue of the ANO, okay, and not the CAA, they do not fall into this. I will put this text in the description of the video. The source legislation from the European Commission was quite clear that it's someone authorised by the competent authority. Those of us in the CAA who carry a warrant as an ANO authorised person would fall under this. as would anyone specifically directed by someone representing the CAA. So when the police ask to see your ops manual, you can say no. Okay, they are not representing the CAA. And the access, the Spec 90, the article, I'll put the link in the description. The police do not have the authority to say, right, send us your ops manual, we're going to fully review it and all your flights. They have not been authorised by the CAA. So there's a bit of confusion in there. I had to double check, and it was quite clear it has to be someone authorised by the competent authority, so the National Aviation Authority. So that to us, that's our Civil Aviation Authority. Okay? I said okay again, didn't I? I'm doing well at this. Yeah, and that's the new PDRA, everyone. That's what we GBC flies fly under. That's your standard authorisation. Hopefully there's loads of useless information in there and stuff worth knowing. I'll put links, I'll put all the text, I'll put some screenshots up, of course, they'll appear. And thanks to the CA, they've answered some cracking questions. And yeah, don't be afraid of overflight, just risk assess it. Okay? I'm saying okay, aren't I? Just get your risk assessments in order. You know, if you're happy that your aircraft has taken off and flown and it's been flying fine, you've maintained it accordingly, you have nothing to fear, even if it falls out of the sky unexpectedly. You shouldn't have to worry or be stressed about that, because that will come under I'm safe. When you're doing your medical check about stress and everything, if that becomes a stressful thing, that's not good. If you're fixated on that, it's not good. So you shouldn't have that kind of pressure on you, and you shouldn't feel that pressure either. It's like a helicopter can overfly, so can a drone. The press are going to make a big deal out the AAIBs, you know, oh, you shouldn't be overflying a drone at 1.4 kilos or blah blah blah. Get a grip. You know, it's really sad, you know, and sadly, you know, and I hate to say this, and this sounds really callous, I suspect, you know, sadly people do die every day, be it in a car crash, be it sheer bad luck. I mean, I might get run over tomorrow. It could just be sheer bad luck, and that's not a good way to look at it. I get that, but you've got to weigh up the odds. You know, if we never went outside, if we just lived in our houses and never went outside, would you be safe? And the tragic answer is no, because people have died from gas poisoning, monoxide poisoning. So there's a risk to everything we do, be it walking down the street, be it driving in your car, be it getting on a plane, be it getting on a train, be it getting in a helicopter. These things are all a risk. Walking down the street is a risk. So, you know, flying a drone is also a risk.